Chapter 15, Paper Birds. Paper birds. Trill 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 trill. An alarm is ringing on my smartphone. Trill 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 trill. Ugh. A text alarm trying to wake me up. Trill 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 trill. .arg. Trill 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 trill. Writhing in agony, I finally couldn't bear it and sat up. Shit. I reached out and picked up my smartphone. It was 2 a.m. on Wednesday. Who the fuck is? I was cursing when my eyes widened. I snapped to attention. They seemed like a lunatic, but it was a request text. I hastily tapped on the screen. A reply came immediately. Hashtag 85000-324-5839, well. I have an assignment. But this is confidential, right? Then several photos were sent. Who is this? 5 landscape pictures in total, with the assignment from the Tuesday elective, Latin LI, written underneath. I was slightly taken aback, but I replied immediately. I can. However, the quality of the assignment should be similar to your level. If it's too good or too bad, you run the risk of being suspected. Please send me a brief 3-line Latinal writing that you've done yourself. Hashtag 85000-324-5839, oh okay. Just a moment. Is it Layla? I'm not sure. The text itself looks a bit dumb. Trill. My smartphone rang again. It was the client's Latinal writing. Hashtag 85000-324-5839, harbor. The clouds are floating. A ship is docked. A few people watch the boats in the harbor. The sun is shining. It looks hot. It is actually hot. I'm sweating. Summer. It's Layla. Almost 90% it's her. My first partner when I first entered the index in my freshman year. The psycho who went berserk, threatening to cut my finger because I crossed the desk line a little. I deliberately asked for a high price. Whether it's Lalia or not, 500 Ren is a small change to the nobles learning Latinal. I was going to give my account number but decided against it. It wouldn't matter if I was found out, but there's no good in being found out. Immediately, the barcode of a department store gift card came. Not 250 Ren, but 500 Ren. I said the advance payment was 250 Ren. Did they understand the advance payment as 500 Ren? Well, that's good for me. Of all places, it had to be Libra Department Store. Libra Department Store gift certificate. It was a bit irksome due to my old habit boycotting any and all goods related to Libra before my regression, but I decided not to be petty about that anymore. So, it's rather good. It's the most popular gift certificate, so even if I cash it in, the commission is only about 3–4%. Having replied, I sat at my desk and picked up a pencil. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. 3 a.m. A luxurious villa in a cypress forest. Having finished her day's work, Elise is lying on the sofa, looking at her smartphone to relax. KSSSSSS. She gently snaps her fingers, drowning out the white noise of Asher and Kane's martial arts fight outside the window. Balin, Elise. How about Dorcia this week? I barely managed to make a reservation. Here, Balin is the second son of the conglomerate list day, Turek is the youngest son of a congressman, and Silban is the eldest son of the Vergio Knights commander. Following her father's advice, she's managing her connections to some extent, but Elise finds it all rather bothersome. Because she can guess what these people might be thinking. Tisk. Her mother and other people say that being pretty is a sin, but no matter how much she thinks about it, it's an irresponsibly cruel statement. This excessive and vulgar attention focused on her appearance, these annoyances, are they all supposedly my fault for being pretty? It doesn't make sense. Beauty is innocent. It's the flies that stick around without knowing their place that are guilty. Elise. I finished my Latinal composition. At that moment, Layla appeared from the corner of her vision. She extended 5 sheets of paper with a slightly tense expression. Elise raised an eyebrow. Already? Yeah. This. Can you check if the meaning and interpretation are correct? Elise took it from her. An assignment to describe 5 landscapes in Latinal. With a condition of more than 1,000 characters per page, it's quite a hassle. Elise sighed. It's good. Really? You didn't do it, did you? Gasp. Layla clamped her mouth shut, startled by the pointed remark. How did you know? Was it obvious? No, it wasn't that obvious. The language proficiency, sentence structure, and word difficulty aren't particularly high. Layla, it's just a bit better than your level. I wouldn't suspect a ghostwriter. Really? Awesome. But how did you know? You couldn't have done all this in one day. Duh. Layla's talent is exceptional. To be frank, she's on par with, if not superior to, Elise. The problem is, she doesn't put in the effort. Layla has the highest potential of the spectrum among the people Elise knows, but at the same time, she's the laziest and loves to play the most. Especially, she despises physical training so much that her athletic ability is even less than that of an average middle school student. So, you mean you didn't suspect me, right? Layla was sprawled on the sofa, grinning from ear to ear. Sure. I'd recommend doing it on your own if possible. Who did you hire? Latinal is the highest and oldest language. As an ancient civilization, countless words have yet to be deciphered, making the language itself a form of social power. The high cost of textbooks reflects this, and many prideful linguistics professors and fallen nobles speak Latinal. Therefore, if someone is willing to ghostwrite a Latinal assignment, they're likely to be someone Elise knows. I asked on a flyer. What? This one. Layla handed over a crumpled piece of paper. Elise stared blankly at it. Layla chuckled and said, Elise, you should try it too, they do a good job. Are you crazy? It only costs 1,000 Ren. 1,000 Ren. Yeah. 500 Ren upfront, and 500 Ren upon completion. 1,000 Ren. Considering the hourly rate of Elise's weekly Latinal tutoring, it's incredibly cheap. Forget it. What can I learn from someone who does such a simple assignment? Elise shrugged. The result is bound to be amateurish. It's not at all awkward for Layla's level. No, I asked them to adjust it to my level. Elise was slightly interested in that statement, but soon shook her head and stood up. More importantly, when are you going home? Oh, did your car arrive, Elise? Then take me with you. Let's go together. Elise and Layla left the villa together. Are you guys leaving now? See you tomorrow. 2 men waving their hands in the grassy yard, soaked in sweat. Elise waved back lightly and got into the sedan with Layla. She immediately spoke to the driver, who was gripping the steering wheel. Drop Layla off first today. Understood. I'm going to sleep for a bit. As soon as the car started, Layla fell asleep. Elise, with her arms crossed, was memorizing Latinal vocabulary when she glanced at Layla. The flyer sticking out of Layla's pocket. She wondered if she could complete the assignment with something like that. Even for Layla, it seemed a bit pathetic. When will this guy grow up? Elise shifted her gaze to the window. Her eyes fell back on the flyer. There was no particular reason. She was just curious. Curious about who was selling their knowledge of Latinal as a mere errand. She checked the phone number on the flyer with a quick side glance. and saved it on her smartphone. ******. Wednesday. This morning was particularly tiring, but my mood was particularly good. It was thanks to earning 1,000 Ren overnight. Of course, I couldn't be too excited. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday are the days with college board assignments. On those days, it's more of a summons than going to school, so everyone always gathers at Clement Hall. It's quiet. I arrived at Clement Hall at 8:45. It was still quiet, probably because there was still time until 9 o'clock. Everyone seemed busy with meditation, studying, or breakfast. I sat down in any seat. Unconsciously, I found a certain head. It was the only red hair in Index. So Liet. Since our meeting that day, my eyes have always been searching for her. No, they naturally find her. Because she's such a special person. While admiring her back with my chin resting on my hand, the front door of the hall opened. "Nice to meet you." A rather lively voice echoed. Everyone was taken aback and turned to look in that direction. A girl with pigtails was coming in, holding a box in her arms. "I'm Asilin, the person in charge sent from the University Association. Why isn't it Chedrick? We all have schedules. 2, 3 or 4 of us will take turns evaluating you." She cheerfully introduced herself and put down a box on the desk. Then, she quickly pulled out a file and read it. Index's College Board. From the last assignment, out of a total of 153 people, 26 failed, so from today, it will proceed with 127 people. As she said, the place was a bit empty. From the start, the College Board has a national pass rate of 25%, and even in Index, it's a brutal process that only goes around 40–50%. Isn't 127 still too many? Asilin muttered ominously while looking at her wristwatch. I also checked the time on my smartphone. 9:03 a.m. Anyway, the ability I will evaluate today is Mana Observation. Snap. Asilin flicked her finger. Then, a fireball sprang up in the air. It was a blue-colored. But before that, let's explain briefly. What is a magic formula? It's a formula made of mana. The immediate response. Of course, it's Elise. That's right, a formula made of mana. A magic formula can implement a very simple magical phenomenon. Like this will-o'-the-wisp. Then, what is a magic spell formula? It's a spell made of 2 or more magic formulas. This time, 2, it was Elise. That's right, a spell made of 2 or more magic formulas is a magic spell formula. With this magic spell formula, you can implement much more complex and amazing phenomena than a magic formula. Like flying an airship, expanding space, and so on. I also know the basics. The appearance of a magic formula is a complex figure where circles and lines are intricately intertwined. If 2 or more of these complex figures are connected, it's a spell. When this spell is completed in the correct order, then a magic spell formula is implemented. What do you all see this will-o'-the-wisp is? First, the one with yellow hair. Asilin pointed at me. Why me again? What do you see this fire as? Answer me. The blue flickering in the air. It looks like fire. Fire is fire, what else? Then Asilin shook her head from side to side. Nope. Anyone knows the answer. Elise raised her hand. Good, you there. It appears as a magic formula. Correct. Asilin raised her finger. From its tip, mana sprouted like a stem and formed a formula. This is the magic formula of the will-o'-the-wisp. Asilin looked at me. If you all really want to live with mana, you should be able to observe phenomena in a magical way like this. Those who accept phenomena as they are not professionals. She said, looking at me and grinning. Got it. Dot. I remained silent. Then Aislinn bit her lower lip slightly. Answer. Yes. I understand. Good. Aislinn, who nodded, smiled again. Then, how should we observe this magic formula? With the eyes of a mage. This time, too, it was Elise. Aislinn made her fingers like a gun and pointed at her. Right, of course, you can also get help from tools. But, the help of tools is limited, right? You can't be pulling out a microscope in a pressing situation ultimately, you have to see with your naked eye, that is. Aislinn pointed at her own eyes. She forced them wide open. The easiest way is, of course, the magic body. It's about connecting the mana passage of the meridian to the optic nerve and sending mana through it. Dot. At that moment, I felt a chill. In the end, it's all about the magic body. It's all about the meridian. Feeding mana to the eyes is the easiest part of the meridian. It's the basics of the basics. It's an impossible basic for a terminal cancer patient. So, if you can't even do that in today's assignment, you won't be able to avoid failing, right? Aislinn, who had said up to that point, gripped the lid of the box. So, now we're going to start the official evaluation task. Snap dash. She flung it open. From inside, paper birds noisily sprang out. Flap flap flap. Ugh. Wow, that's surprising. The seniors each watched them with surprised faces. The size and appearance of the paper birds varied, but they all flew out the window in the same way. Chapter 16, Paper Birds. Paper birds. All right. The paper birds have flown out the window. The paper birds disappeared into the distant sky. The retinas of the seniors watching them turned blue, as if they were trying to leave traces of the paper birds in their eyes by filling their optic nerves with mana. Of course, I just sat there. There are a total of 100, and of course, these paper birds were also made with magic formulas. Aislinn tapped her wristwatch, tap tap. It's 9:25 now, so catch them from 9:30 to 1 o'clock. You'll get 1 CP for catching exactly one bird, no more, no less. However, depending on which bird you catch, bonus CPS will be added. The difficulty of the birds was marked on the blackboard. The smaller the size, the fainter the trace left when flying, the higher it seemed. Here, traces refer to the traces of mana. Because everything made of mana inevitably leaves a trace. The 7 hardest birds to catch are a bonus of 1.5 CP. The next hardest ones have bonus points of less than 1 CP. The seniors were about to get up from their seats. Listen to the end, I have to explain the second class, too. They sat back down. In the second class, from 1:10 to 3 o'clock, you will observe the magic formula of the caught paper bird and write a report. Depending on the completeness, up to 3 points of Kemp will be given. Do you understand? Aislinn looked around at the students. I. Then someone raised their hand. It was a somewhat timid-looking man. We are, 127 people, ma'am. I know. Then, inevitably, the students who can't catch a bird dash. They will naturally fail. Aislinn cut off the student's words. It was a voice of contempt. There are too many of you, 127. The college board is not a learning process, it's a stage to prove what you've learned. She muttered a bit coldly, then smiled brightly again. But, if you can't catch it, you can borrow a paper bird. I'll allow you to steal or snatch it until 1 o'clock. However, if you submit the same magic formula of the paper bird, I will only give points to the one with higher completeness. In other words, if 2 people analyze bird A, they don't give points to both, but only to the better one. If you can't catch a paper bird, you fail. Well, it's been 30 minutes now. Aislinn shouted in a bright voice. Start. At that moment, everyone ran outside. I was swept away without realizing it. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. What am I supposed to do? I'm walking down the street looking at the sky. I think I've been moving outside for about 30 minutes, but I can't see a single paper bird. How far could they have flown in 10 minutes? There were turkeys too, weren't there? Turkeys, pheasants, peacocks, pelicans, I'm sure there were big ones like that. Can't seem to find any, what a wild goose chase. I scratched the back of my neck. Probably, the task is not to chase with bare body and bare eyes like me. Paper birds naturally operate with mana. The intention of the examiner would be to detect that mana or to track the mana path left on the path. I can't do it. I never received proper training. I've never been taught to develop mana affinity. Abilities related to mana are extremely important for prior learning. Where should I go? Before I knew it, I was outside the main entrance of the index. This is the street known as the Magic Market. It's filled with shops selling herbs, textbooks, and artifacts. Suddenly, I stopped in front of a sign. Items and machines related to mana are usually called artifacts, and this is a shop that specializes in handling them. I stretched my neck to look beyond the glass window. There were many items like mana spectrometers, disassemblers, catalysts, but an artifact that looked like a monocle caught my eye the most. Suddenly Aislinn's words echoed in my ears. Of course, you can get help from tools. But, the help of tools is limited, isn't it? The help of tools. I casually opened the door. Excuse me. Is anyone there? Then, the owner appeared from behind the counter. He was an old man in a suit, but he was robust. He raised his eyebrows as he wiped a prism with a white handkerchief. I pointed to the monocle. What is this? A mana microscope. The owner shook his head. It's much better than that. It's called a magic optical microscope, almost at the level of an artifact. The model is SCX 9500. Artifact level, That's a tempting phrase. With this, can I see magic formulas? Exaggerating a bit, you can even see mana particles. I nodded my head. With this, I could find something like a paper bird right away. Suddenly, a current flowed through my brain. Zing, my fingers trembled. Can I touch this? Then, the owner silently looked at my name tag. Shiniskal. Are you an index student? Ah, yes. I'm in class. College board. You must be in the same grade as the young lady. Young lady. I'm talking about Miss Layla. Only then did I look at the wall of the artifact shop. The patterns embroidered on the wallpaper itself were the symbol of the Hilton family. This is a Hilton brand. That's right. Are you close with the young lady? We're not close. Layla was an incredibly wealthy person before and after regression, but I didn't particularly want to get close. Then you can't. We're close. I almost lost a finger because of her. The owner showed a small smile. Then touch it gently. That tiny thing is 300,000 Ren. It's such a sensitive artifact that it can easily break. 300,000. 300,000 Ren. The amount of money that can receive various high-end treatments including cancer treatment for a year without any worries. I suddenly thought it was very unreasonable and shitty, but the world is originally shitty. It doesn't change by complaining. Rather, it's just treated like a fool. It's expensive. Anyway, can I remember such an expensive and complex artifact? Let's try it first. I swallowed my saliva with the magic optical microscope SZX9500 on my palm. I murmured quietly. Memorize. Suddenly, the muscles inside my chest contracted strongly. The vision almost completely faded. My waist naturally bent. Could. Trembling, I opened the notepad. Diary. Memory. Capacity history within the last 24 hours, +8. The capacity was exactly 70%, filled up to 70%, and more than half of the mana was consumed, but somehow, I remembered. I returned the magic microscope and bowed my head. Thank you. What's there to thank for? You only touched it. It made sense when I heard it. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. I went back to the street. My heart still ached a bit, but there was no time to rest. I slowly lifted my head. In that posture of looking up at the sky, I closed my eyes. A deep breath that relaxed my whole body. Then, I summoned the SZX9500 to my naked eye. For a moment, my entire eyeball felt like it was burning. It felt like a cold needle was poking at my retina. I opened my eyes again. For a moment, I was at a loss for words. It wasn't the world I knew. Had the memory I summoned into my eyes dyed my vision like a microscope? What I saw became clearer, and I could see things I couldn't see before. Is that it? The streaks of mana strewn across the high sky. The traces left by 100 paper birds are imprinted on my retina. Their colors, textures, and clarity are all different. Faint or bold, warm or blue, white or dark. Among them, there is a particularly thin and pale white band that seems to crumble if I hold it in my hand. I followed it. I circled the streets through the magic market of the index, climbed up the steep road with difficulty. I reached the back mountain of the index site. I stood at the entrance and observed the scenery. I zoomed in on where the band led. The instantly magnified hundreds of times, piercing the other side. A vast wide-angle view was captured at a glance. I found it. A huge tree with countless branches, and a very small paper bird sitting on it. A sparrow-like creature. I quickly held my breath. Bending down, I moved forward quietly. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. I walked up the mountain path as if I were sleepwalking for several tens of minutes. Chirp chirp. Before I knew it, I heard the sound of a sparrow from a tree that had gotten closer. It was within sight even with the naked eye. This should do it. I picked up a pebble from the ground. Chirp chirp. Just as the sparrow chirped and flapped its wings, I took advantage of the opportunity and threw the pebble. Thud. The creature, hit in the head, fainted and fell to the base of the tree. Phew. After nearly an hour, I straightened up. I approached, rubbing my stiff back, and picked up the sparrow. That was easy. Surprisingly easy. Although there was almost no mana left in the retina, and I had sweated so much from moving quietly that I was on the verge of dehydration. I turned around with the paper bird in one hand. Just as I was about to go down the way I came up. It's up here, right? Yes, just follow. There were guys approaching this way. A gang all too familiar. Huh? What's that guy doing there? The guys looked up at me from the bottom of the mountain path, and I looked down at them. The guy in the front, literally blocking my path, was Elise for some reason. Behind her were Kane and Asher, standing like bodyguards. That bastard. Kane spotted me. More precisely, the sparrow in my hand. Did you come to find this? I asked, showing the sparrow. Elise didn't answer. Instead, Asher took a step forward. Oh right, rat. I came to find that, but there's no one around. He smirked, creaking his neck from side to side as he added. The person in charge definitely said it's okay to steal or snatch. You heard it too, right? Yeah. I heard. That's a relief. Whatever you do at the college board is legal. They say students die every year from competition. I just glanced at Elise. She was still serene, gazing at me with her emotionless eyes, her contempt hidden. I was in a quandary. Should I fight? Or should I run away? Either way, both seem impossible. I'm almost out of mana now. What are you doing? Are you scared? Why are you just standing there? Asher asked, chuckling. Then, an idea popped into my head. Dunham. It seemed like a pretty ingenious idea. If it works as I think. I focused my eyes on the paper bird in my palm. I squeezed out the last remaining mana and summoned the Ka. My vision briefly changed again, accompanied by pain. The magic formula engraved inside the sparrow was revealed. It was very small, but countless lines and shapes of mana were tangled inside. I remembered it clearly. I meticulously captured the very minor parts of the formula, and even the flow of mana circulating the circuit, into the as if taking a picture. What are you going to do? Will you get beaten, or will you just give it up? Asher cursed. I ignored him. Because Asher is a lackey. Because the real noble among those bastards is someone else. Elise. I looked at her and went down the mountain path. Hey buddy, why are you like this? I don't like beating kids. Wow, that bastard really seems to want to fight. Asher and Cain loosened up. The two of them cracked their necks, shoulders, and fingers in turn, took off their outerwear, loosened their watches, and prepared to fight with all sorts of nonsense. Here you go. I offered the paper bird to Elise. Let's go peacefully, peacefully. Elise slightly furrowed her brow. Cain and Asher blinked their eyes with dumbfounded expressions. Take it. What's the big deal? Despite my urging, Elise just stared at the paper bird. As if she was suspicious of something. Why? You were going to rob me anyway. I'm just giving it to you. I tried to put the paper bird directly into Elise's hand, but... Has this crazy bastard lost his mind? Cain suddenly grabbed me by the collar. My body was lifted into the air, and the paper bird fell to the ground. It was quite a powerful grip. I was slightly out of breath. No, I was seriously out of breath. You moronic bastard, who do you think you're touching? That's enough. He's giving it. It's not fake. I don't know how he found it, but he did. Elise twisted her lips expressionlessly. Cain immediately let go of me. Cough. As soon as my feet touched the ground, I was gasping for breath. Cain pushed my shoulder. Hey, prick. Know your place. Before you end up crippled. Ah, my throat hurts. I rubbed my throat and looked at Elise. The paper bird was already in her hand. Make sure you use it. Because I gave it to you. I earnestly requested Elise. Sincerely, I hope you get to use it. But this woman, instead of thanking me, squinted her eyes as if it was ridiculous. A psychological victory, huh? How petty. Just like you. Then she turned around gracefully. Like she was dancing a waltz. Ah, what a waste. I was looking forward to beating the shit out of Shin. You should know that you're alive thanks to Elise. Asher and Cain followed Elise, chattering away. Those bastards are always following Elise. I licked my lips as I watched their retreating figures. I did ask Elise, but in fact, it doesn't really matter who submits that paper bird. Whoever submits it will get 0 points. Even if their eyes are good, they can't be better than my microscope, SCX-9500. Chapter 17, Paper Birds. Paper Birds. At precisely 1 p.m., the bell rang, signaling the end of the first period at the college board. I was in the index correction. Of course, I was empty-handed. I no longer had the mana to summon the and I didn't even feel like catching it anymore. I yawned and leisurely returned to the Clement Hall. You've caught one of the 7 most difficult ones. Congratulations. What's your name? Inside Clement Hall, it seemed that the scoring was already underway. Elise Petra. A name that flowed particularly clearly from beyond the door. A voice that you could recognize just by the tone. Damn woman. I opened the door to Clement Hall. Next. Gherkin Kal Dune. Gherkin. With an icy face, he showed his paper bird to Aislinn. I quietly sat in the very back. A sparrow. You've caught this little one very well. You also get a bonus CP of 1.5 points. Aislinn, who had scored Gherkin, quickly turned to look at me. Name. I answered briefly. Shiniskal. Aislinn flicked her head and scanned me up and down. No bird, I suppose. Yes. Shing dash. A line drawn on the scoring paper. It seemed I was the last, as Aislinn returned to the podium. There are a total of 33 seniors who didn't catch a paper bird, which is... She paused for a moment, then swept her gaze over the empty-handed ones, including me. The others also glanced this way. Their expressions were filled with mockery, or relief. That's quite understandable. What does she mean by understandable? Well, I'll distribute the answer sheets now. She threw a bunch of answer sheets. The scattered sheets rearranged themselves in midair and landed in front of everyone's desks. Then, from now, 1:10 p.m. to 3 p.m. Observe the paper bird and write the magic formula on the answer sheet. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Scribble scribble. The sound of pen tips etching on the answer sheets. Occasional sighs and silence. Unconsciously scratching their heads or touching the back of their necks, massaging their eyeballs. A typical exam scene, but there's one difference. It's noisy. I glanced at Elise. No one knows which paper bird's magic formula she is observing and describing right now. They can't see it, because she has a mana curtain around her. That too is a magic formula, cast by Elise herself. And not only her. Each of them is hiding their answer sheets and paper birds in the best way possible, preventing any peeking or cheating. In fact, the 32 who failed to secure a paper bird are eagerly seeking a chance for a comeback. On the other hand, I'm relaxed. Of course, because I don't have a paper bird in my hands right now. I have no intention of stealing or peeking. Therefore, I can screw over one person. I can sprinkle a bit of spicy chili powder. I hope that one who will get a taste of that chili powder is Elise. I picked up my pen. First, I wrote in the name field of the answer sheet. Even without a paper bird, an answer can be written. That's the most important clue for this assignment. However, if you submit the same paper bird's magic formula, only the one with higher completeness will be scored. If more than one answer sheet is submitted for the same bird, only the more perfect answer is scored. Moreover, the score that can be obtained in the second period is even greater than that of the first period. You're behind. I opened my notepad with a small smile. Diary. Memory. Sparrow. Capacity history within the last 24 hours, +6. The magic formula of the paper sparrow is already remembered in the... So, what I have to do is simple. Just copy and paste this memory onto the answer sheet. I clenched the pen and recalled the memory. Then my fingers wriggled on their own. With a swift stroke, as if drawing a line at random. But the result engraved on the answer sheet was the magic formula of the sparrow, without a bit of error or hesitation. The correct answer that SCX 9500 observed most accurately was drawn by borrowing my hand from the memory of the done. Dozens of circles and triangles inscribed in them, magic formula. Countless lines connecting the formula to the magic formula. Even the cunningly hidden rune letters at the edges of such a pure magic formula. Complete. I got up. I walked to the desk at the front and handed in my answer sheet. Shiniskal. I will submit. Then, the seniors who were focusing on the paper bird briefly focused on me. Of course, it's only for a moment. After checking my face, they sneered and poured all their nerves back into the paper bird. Ah, yes. Congratulations on the gold medal. Just leave it. The person in charge, Asilin, even went so far as to not even lift his head and just kept using his smartphone. I laid the answer sheet on the desk and went outside. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. 3:10 p.m. The point at which Wednesday's college board has already ended. In the hallway outside the Clemens Hall, Elise is looking at the reviews of today's college board on her smartphone. View all posts. Paper bird, damn it, I'm going to tear it apart as soon as I get home. Review of this assignment. Thoughts when angry or sad. It's a student community called Rabbit. Since the college board is conducted not only in Index but also in other magic schools, the atmosphere of the community can roughly infer the difficulty. The overall difficulty of this year's college board is determined by the assignments of the first week. Short analysis of today's assignment. Difficulty upward arrow. It seems that not only the community, but also the instructors on the admissions board think this college board is quite difficult. It's a very good signal for the top tier like herself. The harder it is, the more discrimination will intensify. Ah, my eyes hurt like hell. Elise. Have you finished everything? Then Kane asked. His eyes were bloodshot like a ghost's. I couldn't finish it all, damn it's so freaking tiny. It's okay. You did well in the first period. Even if you only get 2 points in the second period, it's enough. Given that the difficulty is quite high, being in the safe zone with about 80% of the maximum would be enough. The maximum CP given for this task is 5.5 points when combined for the first and second periods. Therefore, surpassing 4.4 points is the boundary for the top tier. Oh really? That's a relief. Kane chuckled, patting his chest. Bang bang. You fucking asshole. Suddenly, there was a shout and a commotion. Elise also turned to look in that direction. What a shitty guy. It's your fault for getting robbed, and you're freaking out. Don't fuck with me, you bitch. You fought and threw up like a fucking child. Two seniors were fighting. At first, they were exchanging punches, then one charged and knocked the other down. Elise watched with interest. Watching fights was a hobby of hers. Fuck you. Get off me, asshole, before I kill you. Although it lacked the finesse of the UMFC, there was some fun to be had in watching these lower-class fights. Because they were so brutal and petty. Ellie, what happens to thee if your secret friend fails? Suddenly, Layla asked with a worried face. Asher answered instead. When you write a withdrawal form, they ask who you think the secret friend is. Why, is your secret friend one of those fighting? No, it's not. Why are you assuming? Layla yelled angrily. If it's not, it's not. Why get so defensive? You idiot. Ah, why again dash? SHH. Elise cut off their conversation. Can you guys definitely score over 4.4 points on this task? Yeah, thanks to you. Asher smiled. Kane also chuckled and nodded his head. On the other hand, Layla, with a dissatisfied face, rested her chin on Elise's shoulder. Ellie, when are you going to stop helping Asher and Kane? I did everything by myself. Elise raised an eyebrow. Sharing brings joy, doesn't it? She knew. If she shared her talent now, it would return as a greater power in the distant future. The value of Kane and Asher comes not from them as individuals, but from their family. Wow. Should I cry? Asher pretended to wipe away a tear. Stop being disgusting. You don't need to be grateful. After all, today's task was tailored for me, wasn't it? Elise Petra. Her innate spectrum is mana itself. Mana control, coordination, agility, response, resonance, sensitivity, affinity, all her agility is perfect and innate. A prodigy. Elise has learned dozens of mana formulas, and has even invented a few of her own. Therefore, in terms of magic and mana in general, Elise herself is confident that her ability to understand, assemble, and comprehend formulas is superior to even Gherkin, Soliet, and most active members. Well, I'll go first. She turned around. Huh? Where are you going? We were about to pop some champagne. Kane asked. Layla also grabbed Elise's wrist. I want to go too. Elise replied curtly. The library. Right now. At Elise's words, the trio's faces turned sour. Layla quietly released her clenched wrist. Elise, on the other hand, asked back. For review and recap. What about you guys? Today's assignment was relatively difficult. It involved infusing magic into one's eyes to track the trail of a paper bird, following its path, capturing the bird, and then observing the magic formula that composed the paper bird until one's eyes were about to burst. It was a grueling task that took a full 7 hours. Okay. Take care. Go. See you tomorrow. Asher and Kane bid their farewells while backing away. Oh, I almost forgot. I had a promise. Layla also made an excuse about a promise and pulled out her smartphone. Do as you please. Elise left the Clement Hall alone. She sent a text to the college consultant while walking through the index correction. The reply came back quickly. JR, yes. Any characters you feel threatened by, or would like to threaten. I can investigate at any time. Particular issues. Today's college board was smooth, but there was definitely something unsettling. Shiniskal. Why did he give me the paper bird? No, how did he find that paper bird with a D grade? Not only that, but everything else is questionable. Challenging the college board with a D grade, showing off his rationality, suddenly acting like a different person, not being intimidated by Kane and Asher. While contemplating, she arrived at the library. Elise sent a reply to the consultant. He's not worth worrying about anyway. A bug that doesn't even deserve to be called trash. A worm crawling on the ground. No, an amoeba that can't even be a worm. A single-celled organism. A planarian. That's Shiniskal. Elise opened the library door, filled with contempt in her heart. She went up to the third floor, reserved for seniors. Elise, who was standing at the entrance without thinking, widened her eyes slightly. The reading room reserved for seniors. There was one person in that place, which was still empty at the beginning of the semester. It was surprising enough that there was someone there, but the identity of that person was even more surprising. He was a failing student. To be precise, a man who would fail tomorrow. The gold medalist who left just 15 minutes after the start of the second period. Shiniskal. That trash, bug, worm, amoeba, single-celled organism, planarian was sitting at a desk. What? Is he studying? Without realizing it, Elise glanced at his book. A textbook of middle school level, which not only showed a significant drop in level, but also cast doubt on his intelligence. Unbelievable. Elise's eyes cooled down. An inexplicable disgust and hostility welled up. It was the sentiment of a Homo sapiens confronting an ape. Chapter 18, Paper Birds. Paper birds. Throughout my life, I've suffered a fair share of injustices that I couldn't change, whether I wanted to or not. My mother, whose face I can't even remember, was neglected in a hospital and died. My father was betrayed by the family he had served his whole life and died. And I, in turn, was diagnosed with brain tumor, leukemia, and terminal cancer. It felt like the world was telling me something. That I shouldn't be alive. That I was a mistake. Damn this world. Let's see. Despite everything, I managed to survive, and now I'm here in the Library of Index. Magic theory. I'm thinking of studying again the academic foundation of magic formulas and magic spell formulas. I've always been an almost mage, a dropout from magic theory. I got full marks in theory by cheating through my and almost failed in practicals. That's how I maintained a balance of a D grade. Sigh. After borrowing a few books from the first floor, I went up to the third floor and sat down. I won't use the. Not only because it's running out of space, but also to see the difference between studying on my own and remembering things through the memo pad. I opened the first magic theory textbook. Magic is the study of mana. It is the field that computes, analyzes, and compares mana. No need to think of it as complicated. It's just math that quantifies mana and derives answers through various formulas. Just when I was concentrating and reading, a pleasant scent wafted in. It felt like a flower had bloomed at the tip of my nose, and instead of a flower, someone sat down across from me. A woman who silently appeared and started laying out her books. She rested her chin on one hand and mumbled as she flipped through the pages of her book. Magic theory for middle school students. How low level? Are you a monkey? I looked at her. She had an air of arrogance, as if she was flaunting her nobility. Congratulations on failing. Time to drop out. Her name was Elise Petra, who calmly suggested dropping out. She's from the Petra family, who owns Petra University and University Hospital, as well as several other large hospitals of hospital level, and is the golden child of Bercy Petra, a two-term congressman. I don't want to. I quite despise and loathe this person. She's largely responsible for my ostracization. She said with a blank expression. Is that so? Can you handle it? Her gaze remained fixed on her book as she delivered a short, clipped warning. A quick glance revealed that it was Magic Algorithm, a university-level textbook. I asked briefly. What do I have to handle? All the bullshit you've been spouting. At that, Eliza's hand stopped abruptly. She raised her head with a small smile. One hand was resting on her chin, and the other was on the page of her book as she glared at me. Do you even know why you're being ostracized? What could this question mean? Does she want to know if I know why she hates me, or why she torments me? There may be various implications. It's not common to have a screwed-up life like me. I responded. Ha, you of all people. I know. The reason why Elise hated me from the start. I know it. What? I was treated for leukemia at Petra University Hospital when I was 13. However, I accidentally learned about the hospital's corruption by someone and passed it on to a journalist. At first, I didn't even know it was corruption. Because I was 13. I was merely curious about why they were trying to test a new drug on me instead of using the optimal medicine to treat leukemia, so I asked a journalist who was admitted to the same ward. Then the news of the kickback scandal broke out. The whole continent was boiling with news. Elise's father fell from the parliamentary election. So, was it my fault? No way. I know. I looked around the library for a moment. Fortunately, there were hardly any people because it was the beginning of the semester. I leaned my upper body towards Elise. She frowned, perhaps uncomfortable with my approach. Listen carefully. Elise Petra. A person whose personality is as twisted as mine, both before and after regression, a person I quite dislike. For her, I whispered each word, each letter, with sincerity. Shut up. Before I rip your mouth open. Elise's expression froze terrifyingly cold for a moment. Her lips and chin trembled slightly. Ha. Soon, she laughed as if she was choked. She brushed her hair with her fingers and asked. Do you have a few lives to spare? Well, I think I have 2. Maybe 3. I haven't checked. You're a lunatic. I stood up from my seat. Elise also immediately stood up and blocked my way. Our eye levels were still about the same. When we met again after she graduated from college, I was much taller. I said. Move. If I don't, will we fight? Do you think I can't beat a piece of trash like you? No, I won't hit you. Not yet. Not yet. Unfortunately, if we fight, I'll be beaten up, and the Petra family is still a big burden. Even though they are only being pushed by Libra, they are at least the 14th in the continent. Instead, take this. I shoved my finger in her face. I raised my middle finger. You. Elise's expressionless face broke for a moment. The angle of her eyes shot up to 1110. She reached out to grab my finger, but I quickly pulled it away. As I turned around and walked towards the library exit, I said. Oh right. You should manage your hospital better. The service was a mess. Elise didn't say anything. Frozen, she just stood there, glaring at me. The vein popping on her neck was quite scary. I'm leaving. I quickly ran out of the library. I walked down the stairs and stepped onto the asphalt of the schoolyard. Whoosh. The night wind was cold. I buttoned up my coat as I walked. It's cold, so cold. As I said it, I felt refreshed inside, but a corner of my heart felt lonely. Ugh. With each footstep echoing on the pavement, an old memory resonates in my ears. Sigh. It's not my memory. It's a memory passed down to me. However, it's a very important memory. According to that memory, my mother died in a hospital due to neglect. They said it was a stormy day. My mother had a car accident, and she was rushed to a nearby small hospital with the perpetrator. The victim was my mother, and the perpetrator was a car carrying a heavily pregnant woman. Both were seriously injured, and the harsh rainstorm made patient transfer impossible. So, could the hospital and the doctors only save one of them? Was the situation so cruel that they had no other choice? I don't know about that. However, the pregnant woman's secretary threatened the hospital, flaunting her family's influence. The hospital willingly focused on the more important person. My mother was neglected. I heard it was so. Only one nurse cared for her as she lay dying alone in her bed. It was the nurse's testimony. No, it was her testimony to me alone, as she refused to testify in court. Ah, right. A thought came to me belatedly. I took out a secret friend card from my pocket and looked at the name written on it. Suddenly, I stopped and looked back. The library's glass window. There was a woman looking down at me from that place, too bright compared to the night sky. That woman. The life that survived instead of my mother, whom I can't even remember. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Ah, when will this end? Late at night. Aislinn was grading the papers in the University Association's office. It's the most annoying task for a person in charge. Moreover, there are as many answer sheets in the index as there are people. Other magic schools only have about 50-60 people. Sigh. Aislinn quickly skimmed through the answer sheets and marked the scores. The grading criteria are as follows. Observe the paper bird and present even the big picture of the magic formula for 0.5 points. Describe even a part of the magic circuit correctly for 1 point. Up to 1 point depending on the overall. Completeness. Detect even the existence of the rune cleverly hidden for 0.5 points. A total of 3 points. The assignment itself is quite difficult, so there would be about 1% full marks across the continent. Elise, Soliet, Gherkin. They're 6-star prospects. They're really something. There are 3 people in the index. The elite trio who received perfect scores. Aislinn continued grading. She mechanically flipped through the 127 answer sheets. And then she paused. Her eyebrows furrowed, and her body instinctively leaned forward. What's this? She stared wide-eyed. It was a magic formula the size of a fist. It was small in size, but it was densely packed with magic circuits. 18 shapes, 199 line segments, 7 rune characters. The answer to Paper Sparrow was depicted with such precision that the structure of the geometric formula and the complex and subtle dynamics of the circuit were clearly described. She picked it up and turned it over. There were no errors. No mistakes. Even the smallest details, down to the shape of the runes, were as accurate as if viewed under a microscope. Who is this? She hurriedly checked the name. Shiniskal. Who is this? She didn't recognize the name. She searched the University Association's database. More striking than the dismal grade of D was the bright yellow buzz cut. Was it him? She remembered the face, if not the name. He was already infamous at the University Association. The fool who claimed to aspire to be a knight of Libra, yet had bashed a prism with a golf club. Libra hated nothing more. Aislinn looked at the grading paper again. Shiniskal, first period score 0 CP. He hadn't caught the paper sparrow. In other words, he had written the answer by peeking at someone else's paper sparrow. Yet he had submitted such a perfect answer. And that too, within 15 minutes of the start of the second period. Does this make sense? Is he physically strong? If he was naturally robust, it would be entirely possible. After all, they say the more robust a person is, the better the efficiency of their body. If he could observe and remember such a small formula with just a moment's glance, that would be super efficient, beating most spectrums. Why was such a guy graded D in grades 1 to 3? No, if he had such eyes, he wouldn't have failed to catch the paper sparrow, would he? Anyway. Aislinn wrote a score on Shiniskal's answer sheet. The maximum CP that can be obtained in the second period is 3, but the college board has something called discretion of the person in charge. Since, in the view of the person in charge, it was the most outstanding among all the answers in the index, discretionary score 0.5 points. Of course, to give a discretionary score, you have to submit documents to a university professor affiliated with the University Association and get approval. But this answer sheet will convince that young senior. Aislinn sent a message via the association messenger. Teacher Thea, I gave one person a discretionary score. Please check. The person being reported to was Thea Easel, a chair professor at Uppsala National University. However, the two were the same age. A peer, but a far senior, and far above. Thea Easel, I've checked, but please be careful with typos in the future. It's not teacher, it's professor. Yeah. Aislinn was about to turn off the messenger. Dia Easel, also, discretionary scores are extremely important and sensitive in college admissions. Before reporting to me, go through at least 3 reviews, and have sufficient discussions with the other proctors. A long text befitting a young senior. Aislinn replied while skimming through it,